the price of hops is about 5 times what it was only a handful of years ago.
We were told by our suppliers that there's going to be a major shortage was shaping up, and it was a worldwide shortage.
I was at one brewery when the spot prices came in.
My wife had the idea, well, maybe we should try and plant some hops.
Hops is a crop that we thought about a number of years ago.
Well, we started Weyerbacher Brewery back in 1995 with the idea there just wasn't any good local fresh beer made in the area. And started out to make some more, some amber ales, more pedestrian style craft brews. And over the years we've gradually migrated into the bigger beers, more esoteric and unusual styles.
Weyerbacher out of Easton has kind of made a name for themselves with big beers, and two of the beers that have had a fair amount to do with that have been big hoppy beers. Remember when they first made Hops Infusion IPA, a bold label, bold idea.
We've got several hop-centric beers, as they call it, very hoppy styles. Our Hops Infusion IPA, Double Simcoe, which is a double IPA made exclusively with Simcoe hops.
Big beer, so hoppy it's almost hallucinogenic.
The price on hops was pretty much stable for the first 12 years of our existence, since '95 to really to 2006. It was pretty typical for breweries to pay $4 to $6 a pound for hops, just about any variety, and it varied very little over that 12-year period. And all of a sudden, at the end of '07, we were told by our suppliers that there's going to be a major shortage was shaping up, and it was a worldwide shortage. And the hops spiked from $4 to $6 a pound wholesale to $18 to $20 a pound.
There's a soaring demand for hops in other parts of the world, such as Asia.
I was at one brewery when the spot prices came in, and they'd been paying something like $3.50 a pound for Cascades the year before. The new price they just got in was $32.10 a pound. It was just shocking.
Events that led up to this gigantic spike, which was like a 5 times price increase, or a fire in a warehouse on the West Coast that consumed a substantial percentage of U.S. hops that were stored there. You had this pressure from hop farmers to increase their prices.
Something like this could easily put a small company out of business. So after many talks with my wife had the idea, well, maybe we should try and plant some hops, to supply the brewery. And the price is so high that even if we got a low yield, we could probably make ends meet on it if it didn't work out really well.
Historically, American craft breweries do not own their own hop farms, don't own their own barley or wheat fields. Some of the larger breweries do, but the American craft breweries have been buying raw materials on the open market. And I think looking forward to the future, craft breweries are going to start to become more vertically integrated.
Folks at Weyerbacher looked at it quite seriously and made the decision, knew what they were getting into, and didn't balk when it came down to. They put in about 1,500 plants, Cascades and Nugget.
She started doing the research, got a lot of good information off of the internet from some of the hops growing associations, and ended up contacting a farmer, a friend of ours from New Jersey, and he happened to know somebody at the Rutgers University experimental farm who had done a hops growing project about 6 or 8 years ago.
Hops is a crop that we thought about a number of years ago as being unique and possibly fitting to grow in this area on a small scale so farmers can make some profits and sell their hops to local microbreweries. This dates back about 8 or 9 years ago, and Ed Dager, our farm manager, went on a program of growing several different varieties of hops and looking at their feasibility.
Sue and Dan Weyerbacher came to John earlier this year asking about hop production and John contacted me, and we sat down with Sue and went over some of the cultural aspects of it and what our research demonstrated, yield, and how they did throughout the project here at the Snyder Farm. And then they wanted to go forward with it, so they put in an acre of hops, and we've been contacting each other periodically in case they have a problem.
I think every day we thought we were insane for doing this, but you know, once with projects, once we're committed to it, and obviously we had put the time and the money into it, there was no turning back. You know, the first couple weeks after we planted them, I'd go out every day and, you know, be on my hands and knees looking for something to come up, thinking the ultimate in craziness would be if we spent all this time and money and we have a field full of nothing.
Basically, they have to harvest them by hand. It's fairly labor intensive. It takes a while to do that. I think if you do a one-time harvest, when they're approximately 70% of them are mature enough to harvest, I think that will reduce the labor time.
Now that they have their hops planted, I believe they have the varieties that will produce adequate supplies.
There's a lot we learned this first year, and you know, even though the yield's not bad, like look at this, you know, first year just planted from a rhizome, and it's loaded with cones, this cascade vine. I think we did pretty good the first year. Out of 1,500 plants, we'll maybe get 300 pounds.
The thing is, they're taking a little more control of their situation. They're maybe even looking a little more serious to a grower. So if the grower sees that they're putting into that and they're willing to pay the price to the grower, that's a good thing too.
I just got back from Germany. It's very common for farms, hop farms in particular, to have a little restaurant bar or even a restaurant bar / brew pub, and they'll brew beer with the hops that they're growing in their backyard. And I think you're going to start to see that type of structure more and more in American craft brewers.
Well, our plans for this year are to just basically have a big harvest party like they do in Italy at the time of the grapes harvest, where they get everybody from the neighborhood out to pick grapes all day and supply them with wine and food to eat, and at the end of the evening they have a big feast. So we're going to do the same thing